Welcome into Dante's Inferno, a.k.a. Locked On Knicks. Gavin Shaw, Alex Wolf, another dominant win for your New York Knicks to cap off one of the best months in the history of the team. We talk about that and perhaps Donte DiVincenzo's best game as a Knick next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks, and I wanted to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen this day, and every day. I got caught up in the whole best month thing, Alex. It tripped me up. Today and every day, because that make you an everyday, and therefore one of our best friends. If you want to do so and be so, you should subscribe on YouTube and hit that notifications bell to ensure you never miss an episode. But if you're at home and you're like, I like looking at Alex, I don't like looking at Gavin so much, there's another option for you. There's this beautiful thing called a podcast where you only have to listen to us. So be sure to hit that auto download function on your podcast app of choice to enjoy this show each and every day. But who are we? He's Alex Wolf, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check that out on all forms of social media at thestrick.land. I am Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the New York Knicks cap off. Man, what a month of basketball, Alex. 14-2, a 118-103 victory over the Utah Jazz, all led by Donte DiVincenzo. But I think before we get into his performance, we need to zoom out a little bit because I think like most Knicks fans, guilty of moving the goalposts at times. And when you and I first started this podcast, the conversation was, is Alonzo Trier or Kevin Knox the Knicks' next all-star? And now it's like, all right, we won 14 games, big whoop. It's pretty amazing stuff. And wherever this journey ends for the Knicks this season, I just have a feeling this is going to be a month we look back on at the start of something, like in terms of this team hitting a new level, and just something to appreciate for two guys who have lived through mostly terrible Knicks years.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best month that we've ever gotten to witness as Knicks fans, which is really saying something because like the Knicks, like in 12-13, for example, started off super duper hot that year. Yeah. And yet still never matched the success of what the Knicks are doing right now. I mean, 14-2 in a month is nothing to like shake a stick at. You know what I mean? Like this is a really, really good team. I think these last two games have really proven too, like if you want to say, hey, against Charlotte, whatever, it's a tanking team. Fine. I get it. I mean, Charlotte has some talent, but like was missing some key players, obviously, like LaMelo Ball not playing, stuff like that. Fine. I could hear the argument of like they played a team that they should have beaten, regardless of if they were missing two of their top three players or not. But this Jazz team is not a team of pushovers. Like ever since the last time that they faced the Knicks, they've played quite a bit better as an overall unit. And they are a very respectable team. They have Lauri Markkanen, who's probably going to make another All-Star team this year. They have two guys that have been sort of linked to the Knicks in terms of potential trade targets in Sexton and in Clarkson that, are guys that could kind of fit that bill for if they want someone to back up Jalen Brunson and kind of do that bench creation role and all that stuff. So like, this is a talented team. They've got some players and the Knicks just handled them in this game. It was very similar to the Hornets game where it was like first half, they kind of just fuddy-duddied around a little bit. And then the second half, they said, all right, it's winning time. We're going to do this. The process of this team, it just seems so perfect now. It's like everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. You've got guys like Precious Achiuwa that looked really rough at the beginning of his stint with the Knicks and now has things figured out, like knows what he's supposed to do on offense, on defense, and is playing it perfectly, and had another really great game filling in for, I guess you could say for Anunoby, because you figure that Josh Hart will stay in the starting lineup once OG's back. So, Precious filling in for the guy he got traded over with. And, this team is just so good, man. It's easy to almost already get sort of used to this, because this felt like a routine win already, even though the Knicks have only been playing this level of basketball for a month, like this level of dominance, I should say, because they've they've handled their business against bad teams all year, but they have not been like handling every team like they have in this last month for the entire season. And so much of it comes back to just like the symbiosis that we're seeing between the Villanova guys and how clearly comfortable they are together. And as long as they're able to share the floor, the Knicks will always have something really special between those three players. Isaiah Hartenstein coming back and finding his way again. Precious, again, like I said, stepping in, playing super well. I mean, there's so much good going for this team right now. And I don't know. It's fun being along for the ride right now. Like you said, considering where we came from when we started doing this podcast five years and a month ago. And we're covering a very, very different team.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, the craziest part about this is those last two games, they started one guy that was in their opening night starting lineup. It was Jalen Brunson. Everyone else is either injured off the team or Quentin Grimes coming off the bench. And that, I mean, just it just feels like there's an institutional, I hesitate to say greatness, but I'm going to say an institutional very goodness that's been instilled. And that's a testament to Leon Rose in this front office. It's a testament to a guy we've given a lot of crap to in Tom Thibodeau, that there's this night-to-night consistency and there's this night-to-night defensive culture at this point that, like, you can be missing someone like OG Anunoby and Donte DiVincenzo and Josh Hart are going to go out there and dominate defensively. And Jericho Sims and Precious Achiuwa and Isaiah Hartenstein, still not quite at 100%, are going to give you a decent facsimile of what Mitchell Robinson gives you at both ends. And they just have this infrastructure at this point where one guy goes out and someone comes in and gives you just enough that you can win games, to your point, against a fairly good Jazz team. And for the second straight night, just having the ability to flip the switch in the third quarter and saying, all right, that was cute, that was fun, this game is over now. And to me, these last two games, but tonight in particular, Donte DiVincenzo was the guy who was like ultimately the embodiment of that ability to just flip a switch, like just a totally dominant performance on both ends. 33 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals. I know he scored more against the Pacers. That was kind of a BS game with the tempo and with the guys dealt. I thought in terms of importance and considering what he did on defense, Alex, this was clearly his best game as Nick. 1 3-pointer away, 9 for 15, 1 3 away from a Knicks record of 10, tying Evan Fournier and J.R. Smith. Just a special performance from a guy who I said it last night, but I'll reemphasize it. Like, all of a sudden is looking like one of the best bargains in basketball. And I think, like we said with Jalen Brunson, like at a certain point, you just have to start calling him one of the best shooters in basketball. I don't know if Dante's quite there yet, but he's not far off from that type of moniker.
Yeah, certainly not. I mean, there's all these stats coming out. I think Tommy Beer had one of them, and someone else pulled another stat where there's all these stats with how many threes that Brunson and DiVincenzo are taking and making this year, and the percentages that they're shooting. You could pretty much only put them in a category with like prime Steph Curry and Klay Thompson right now, as far as the impact that they're having from deep. And this was just kind of, I think this was bar none. You know, the scoring number wasn't quite as high, but I think this was without a doubt DiVincenzo's best game as a Knicks so far. I mean, just the fact that he came out there, my favorite moment, and I was letting you know before the show, my overall disdain for Colin Sexton. I am not a Colin Sexton fan at all. Yeah, the young bull, or the what did Clyde call him the whole time? He didn't call him young bull, he called him something else. But whatever. He kept calling him a bull, like a little bull or something like that.
He called him the little bull. He called him the little bull.
Yeah, which is supposed to be young bull, which makes it
but it's just
funnier.
a more condescending version of his nickname.
Exactly. Yeah. So shout out to Clyde for bringing that up. Not once,
that was a conscious subtweet by Clyde. That's honestly amazing. I'll save for the third segment, but he had one of the single funniest lines I've ever heard from him. But
yeah. It was a very good Clyde game, I think. But yeah, to come out there, you know, Sexton like got one deflection early on Brunson and like made him a little uncomfortable, and then started getting in his ear and like massively trash talking him for no reason, and like following him all the way to the sideline, and like he was trying to like take the ball even though he had clearly knocked it out, and Brunson just kind of took it back, was like, I'm gonna give this to the ref and inbound the ball, it's my ball. And like Sexton like took exception to that, and he's just, I don't know, he sucks. But then Donte DiVincenzo, like for like 5 straight plays just completely ate his lunch and made him hate his life. And that made me really, really happy. That's probably what made this Donte DiVincenzo's best game to me. Not all the great shooting or scoring or anything else, but just the variety of what we saw from him too. The getting inside, he went for another like big dunk and couldn't quite get it over the goal line there.
Two of them. Two of them. I
True.
think the Knicks have to lead the league in impressive missed dunks at this point.
Between him and Grimes the last few games, it's been pretty bad.
OG too. OG tried
Yeah.
on the Magic, tried to dunk over Isaac and Wendell Carter.
Yeah, it's like they're all just like, we're gonna get these somehow, and they just can't quite get there. Not quite like John Moran or whatever, as far as being able to just like jump right over people. But yeah, just a phenomenal game for DiVincenzo. I loved everything about it. His impact on defense ultimately is what sets it aside for me. But like even a nice help block, steals, getting things going in transition. It was just sort of like if you distilled all the best things of the Donte DiVincenzo experience into one game, this was it.
It's stunning to me how quick his release is now. And I said this earlier in the year, but he just has one of the softest, prettiest shots in basketball. And I remember watching that national championship game against Michigan and thinking like, God, this guy's just, I mean, honestly, Duncan Robinson's the other person like coming out of college. I thought that about like, this guy's just a beautiful shooter. Like, I wonder if it's going to translate to the NBA at all. And it did, but only in fits and spurts his first few seasons. And was way better last year in Golden State. And I think you and I came on the pod, and even when we had Cyrus from Locked On Warriors on, said, all right, that 39%, that's probably going to go down because that was playing off of Steph Curry and getting wide open three after wide open three. And instead, like I said, like volume goes up, accuracy goes up, and just the confidence for him has to be at an all-time high. And at this point, like he's just consistently shooting 30-footers, and it just looks effortless. Like, I don't know if if Steph Curry gave him like some special sleep chamber or transferred him a little bit of his powers, but I never expected this when they got DiVincenzo. And then defensively is better than I ever thought. Like this was a play where he didn't even get credited for a steal, but he forced a shot clock violation, literally guarding Jordan Clarkson like into the ground, and Clarkson just had to give it up with 2 seconds left on the shot clock. Just a spectacular two-way effort from Alex. If you want, we can save this for next segment, but I'm wondering if when everyone's healthy, Tom Thibodeau is going to give some credence to the idea of playing him in some rotations with the bench as a point guard and kind of using him similar to RJ, where you take him out with the starters a little bit early and then save him for the second unit, because I think that's something in the playoffs that could give them a little bit more juice, even if he's not that on-ball creator that someone like Malcolm Brogdon is they could potentially get. I just think they're going to have to find a way to get him more minutes because he's showing he's too good and he just deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that more in a sec when we talk about Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson too. But I thought that he and Hart showed off the chemistry that they have together, and that's certainly something I'd love to see more of. Just the ESP that they have for backdoor cuts and everything else. But let's talk about those two. Let's talk about Jalen Brunson in just a sec. But Gavin, first, can you let everybody know about our friends over at eBay Motors and maybe how to help win a fantasy basketball league?
Absolutely, Alex. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. So you know who I'm going with on this list. It's someone you just mentioned, Alex. A little tease. It's Josh Hart. Josh notes Hart should be a big winner due to the Randall injury and could see gigantic minutes for multiple weeks. Well, Tom Thibodeau loves him some Josh Hart. 43 minutes. Josh Lloyd predicted it. He knows his fellow Josh. Triple-double for Josh Hart that he predicted before the game. 2 steals, 2 blocks, couple free throws. I mean, if that is not what you want out of a waiver wire fantasy basketball pickup, I think your expectations are too high because he is picture perfect. I went looking for him in my league, Alex. I couldn't find him. Everyone already went shopping for Josh Hart. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And we are back on Locked On Knicks, a 118-103 victory for the New York Knicks over the Utah Jazz. Alex, we got to talk Nova boys. We already covered 1/3 of the trio. Where are we bouncing next?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Josh Hart, even though, I mean, Jalen Brunson had the most casual 29 points you could ever see.
He had
Mostly in
29.
what's that?
I was genuinely shocked he had 29. I didn't look thoroughly at the box score yet. I thought
He
he had
did.
like 21.
Nope,
Wow, that was
29.
casual.
Some of it
Point
came
taken.
through in the end. Yeah, a lot of it was in the second half, but yeah, 29, man. I actually thought he was going to get 30 towards the end. Like he got really close and I was like, wow, is he really going to like somehow get 30 in this game even though he had like kind of a struggle first half, or not struggle, but like he wasn't as aggressive in the first half.
He
You know, it
made
didn't feel.
his second field goal with 2 minutes left in the first half.
Yeah, which is crazy for him. And I mean, crazy also that the Knicks were up at that point.
Mhm.
But Josh Hart, man, it was a heck of a game for him too. Like his first career triple double, apparently, which comes as a little bit of a surprise for me, given I guess maybe it's the assists that usually hold him back. But I mean, he certainly had plenty of double doubles. I would have thought at some point he would have had a 10-10-10 night, but that's exactly what he got. He got 10-10-10, finishes it off with a very satisfying alley-oop to Precious Achiuwa with like 38 seconds to go. Maybe a little bit of running it up there, but who cares? Whatever. We'll just pretend it was like the in-season tournament and they were going for
I mean,
the point margin
against the little bull, you have to run it up.
against the little ball. Nothing makes me happier. And that's what I'm going to call him for the rest of his career now.
He's like 38 still in the league. You're like,
Yeah.
man, the little bull of throwback performance tonight.
But yeah, man, I loved this performance from Hart. I think so. What I really liked about the Knicks in general, but this was something that I think mostly came through with Hart in this game. They only ended with 5 turnovers, and it like 3 of those came from Hart. But I don't think that I don't think that like his process was weird or anything. And like that's still it's an awesome assist to turnover ratio, 10-3. But the thing with how the Knicks were playing and passing the ball in this game, and this, I think Hart just like mostly exemplified this, which is why I feel the need to like highlight him for this. It seemed like they were taking some risks with passing, but they were calculated risks. And I really liked that. Like it was just a smart way of trying to hit the corners and stuff. Like they would drive in, collapse the defense, and then make a pass that was maybe a little bit risky, but if it got through, would hit someone for an absolutely wide open shot. But they were throwing such darts that if it didn't get through, it was pretty much guaranteed to get deflected and end up out of bounds, and they would get the ball back anyway and get to reset and try again. I don't know if it was fully intentional or maybe they just lucked out a little bit, but that's how it went for most of the passes tonight. Like that didn't get completed and end up as assists. And Hart kind of did that a lot. Like he was driving in, just whipping it out to the corners. And that was a lot of what led to those 10 assists for him. But also just his vision, hitting guys on backdoor cuts was amazing as usual. He hit DiVincenzo for a number of those. He was great in transition. I mean, this was for as much as it sucks to have Julius Randle out, if Hart keeps playing like this and then you get OG back, like the Knicks have a very good chance to just not really skip too much of a beat right now, especially if Precious can keep playing as well as he has been, because Hart did a lot in this game, at least from the facilitating perspective, in a different way, but similar to what you would get from Julius Randle in some ways.
Yeah, I mean his physicality going downhill stood out, and I mean it's been a theme the last 4 or 5 games for him where he looked like the guy the Knicks got last year. You mentioned DiVincenzo doing it. I thought maybe the single most satisfying play of the game for me was when Hart got switched onto Sexton and Sexton tried to go at him and Hart just like put him in jail, and then Sexton tried to shoot anyways and Hart just like threw it right back in his face. And Hart is pretty much the same height as Colin Sexton, so that's not a big guy bullying a little guy. That was beautiful. I'm going to pivot over to Jalen Brunson, who I know in the modern NBA, this isn't what it meant in our youth, where like he could have been leading the NBA or second in the NBA with this number, but he's at 26.8 points per game now. I'm just going to round it up and say he's at 27 points per game. I mean, that is, again, Melo probably would have put up 32, but in this NBA, but that's Carmelo Anthony-esque. Like for a player, again, of his height, his relative lack of athleticism, and for someone who is not really a ball hog, like that is incredible. And it's a testament to what he's been doing this last month or so. He loves just getting middle and looking out to the wing and throwing that no look kind of pocket pass to a cutter. He did that again tonight. He was just bullying whenever the Jazz brought in Keontae George. Jalen was like, all right, when this guy gets interviewed on the Paul George podcast in 10 years, this is what he's going to refer to as his welcome into the NBA moment. Had another just exceptional pass to Precious where he drove down the lane, like a reverse no look drop off for a dunk. And then when the Knicks went on that big second half run, initially it was 11-0. They also had a 15-0. Overall was 30-6. Brunson kind of got it started with a transition and one, then a transition 3. Like he's just good enough to be able to pick his spots against the team like Utah. This is probably a night where if he was really feeling it and he really wanted to show Colin Sexton, probably could have dropped 40, but he was like, you know what, we're fine. I'm going to keep it in cruise control, and pacing himself still got to 29.
Yeah, and to your point about how much his scoring averages have gone up. I mean, okay, this comes with the grain of salt for October of the fact that they only played 4 games in October. But if you go month by month for Jalen Brunson this season so far, he has gotten better both in scoring and assisting every single month this year so far. So he went from 19.8 points, 4.5 assists in October, again in just 4 games, 26.6 and 5.6 assists in November, 26.9 and 6.8 assists in December. And now for January ends it at 28.8 points and 7.6 assists per game in January. So, I mean, he's just getting exponentially better every single month. And it's not even like he's just scoring more and distributing less. He's doing both things more and finding a really good balance, I think, of knowing, the games to be more of a facilitator and knowing the games where he needs to put the team on his back and be the scorer and be the guy that he was like in the Miami series last year, for example, that can just go out there and basically win you a game by himself any given night. It shows a ton of maturity. It shows a lot of just him understanding his team better. You could see the chemistry shining through all the time now where he just knows where everybody's going to be. This whole team trusts each other a ton. And I don't think Brunson was ever guilty of not trusting his teammates or whatever, but certainly in this new look team that's now 14-2 since the OG trade, he just seems to have a better understanding of where everybody's going to be, of what needs to happen any given game, and is ready to just be, Chris Paul or be, Dame Lillard any given game and, do whatever is needed for the team and just make it happen. And that's why the dude's probably going to be an all-star this coming Thursday. And if he's not, we riot. And that's the note that I'd like to end on.
Taj.
Yes, that is the note to end on before we get into the We Want Taj chants in the next segment. And some great play from the other bigs that aren't on 10-day contracts and aren't fan favorites enough to get uproarious cheers in the Garden, apparently. But first, I got to let everybody know about our good friends over at LinkedIn. So at the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question: what's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Now, I'm not in charge of hiring too often, but I was for a while. Luckily, I have a day job that I like very much right now, so I haven't been on the job market for a while. But when I was on the market, LinkedIn Jobs was the place to go. I don't know if it's the algorithm or what, but as far as being a person looking for a job, you're always getting the best companies for you and the best fit jobs for you put in front of you, rather than a bunch of like entry level sales positions or whatever that you're not looking for that you get on some of those other sites. So from a hiring perspective, if you're posting your job on there, you know that you're going to get your job put in front of the right people and the people that actually want your job. And LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. And hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. So thankfully with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Gavin, we're back in to continue talking through this awesome Knicks win. Again, we'll throw that final score out there, 118-103 over our boss's team, the Utah Jazz. I'd love to hear David come back on like he has in years past and talk crap on New York and the Knicks and everything. But I don't think he can right now. Or if he
Why
did,
would Donovan Mitchell want to go to that pathetic excuse of a franchise?
yeah. Why would Donovan Mitchell ever want to come to this team that a year after he could have potentially gotten traded here is now the hottest team in the NBA?
We want to clarify. David likes to play a character on our podcast, and that character is basically just Danny Ainge. So
More or less,
we have,
yeah.
we have
He
a lot
likes
of
to
fun
play
with
the
it.
character of the person that can never believe that New York could be a destination for anyone ever, wanting to play in the best building in basketball or anything like that. But you know who does love to play basketball in this building though is Isaiah Hartenstein, who had I think unequivocally his best game since returning from his injury. 14 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, a block, shot 6 of 10 from the field. Again, showing some cool stuff in his bag. Some little turnaround baby hooks, hit a really nice righty hook at one point in this game, which is not something we see too often from him. He usually really tries to go to that like lefty floater and the little lefty baby hook because obviously he's a lefty, but that was really cool. Had a really nice move at one point where he drove in from the perimeter and
Oh yeah.
just straight up put it on the floor, drove straight into the teeth of the D, and then backdoored it to Precious Achiuwa for an easy bucket. That was awesome. And then
Wait,
also
now I
had
just got a note that was set up by like this hard pass fake to Donte DiVincenzo that sent Kelly Olynyk flying 5 feet out of the play, and that's a testament to Hartenstein, but also a testament to how hot DiVincenzo was.
absolutely. And then another fantastic play where he got it. The Knicks sort of were running a little bit of a broken play. Like they were having a hard time kind of getting set up. Hartenstein gets it at the very top, and Brunson makes a great cut towards the hoop, and Hartenstein just like zings a pass into him. Just absolutely gorgeous feed to Brunson on that one as well. So this felt like the re-coming out party for Isaiah Hartenstein in this one. Apparently, with his minutes restriction lifted, though, I gotta say, Gavin, I was very happy to see that he still came in just under 30 minutes, and Precious Achiuwa and Jericho Sims were also still able to kind of carry some of the load like they have been lately.
Yeah, they were. I mean, there was no drop off at all, really. I mean, obviously Sims doesn't bring you everything that Hartenstein does, but from a guy who was getting outclassed at times when he would play earlier this year, initially after the Mitchell Robinson injury, I think he's just so clearly benefiting from the solidity at every other spot on the floor and not having to do what Mitch had to do, and Mitch did an extraordinary job of earlier this year, which was clean up RJ's messes and clean up Julius's messes. Like Sims could just kind of focus on himself, and that led to really good stuff. And I mean, on both ends of the floor, offensively, he had a possession where he saved the ball 2 different times, once on a tip out, and then just pressuring Walker Kessler into dropping the ball out of balance after a rebound, and that ultimately led to a Grimes 3. Had one of the plays of the day where he got a nice pass from Grimes that Grimes probably should have finished, dribbled it out like he was just going to do a dribble handoff, and then all of a sudden reverse, like sent to gear and just sprinted to the rim and jammed it. And you could see Walker Kessler was like, "Damn, this guy got me." And he was just solid on the glass throughout. Like I thought he didn't take anything off the table. Precious was even on another level in terms of being useful. 11 first half points. If you watch him closely, he creates a bucket pretty much every single game now just by running the floor hard. And that I rarely mean that when he actually gets the ball and finishes it, just because he runs, someone tags him, and there's someone else who's wide open. Like he got DiVincenzo a three that way. He showed some stuff off the dribble, similar to the other two bigs. That was a theme. All three bigs scoring off the dribble, like had a cross into a spin, into a double pump on Lauri Markkanen. That was awesome. Had this great help block on John Collins. Brunson at one point, this is a play him and Randall love doing now, where Precious leaked out and Brunson just chucked it down the floor with only a small guy on him. And I feel like the Knicks pulled that from Kevin Love doing that to them over and over again in the Heat series. But he was just so patient on that play, like pivoting and waiting for the exact right moment to lay it in. It was just a really solid game for him. And I'm going to be honest, the first few games after the trade, because I know you were excited about him, I was kind of at a point where it's like, I don't really get the hype. This guy isn't it. They're going to have to trade for someone else. Like, I'm buying into it a bit more. Are there going to be matchups in the playoffs that are hard for him? Yeah, but realistically, like, he might not even be in the rotation if Mitch is back, and he's a luxury if there's an injury because he's playing so well right now.
Yeah, and in the playoffs too, I could see a world where, maybe there's some situations where he would have trouble, but also some situations where the Knicks might be able to insert him in, a situation where they need someone at the five that can, handle it a little bit and do the sort of stuff that he does, and, play a little faster, and, find themselves with a guy that they could potentially just kind of break in case of emergency for a slightly different look from Hartenstein or Mitch, if both of them happen to be healthy by the time they hit the playoffs. I'll just throw out my other favorite play from Precious was he got it in transition and then like somehow managed to post up in transition. And
oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah,
oh
where like
yeah,
field like Sexton. Yeah.
yes. So yeah, it was just like I just thought that the way that it ended up being where, yeah, he sealed him off, but it was just such a bizarre scenario to get there where he's running in transition and it's like, this should be a dunk. And then it's like, oh, now it's a post up. All right, cool. Interesting.
Randall did that the other day too. I
Yeah.
almost think that's something they teach if there's only a small in the perimeter and you're racing for a closeout. Just because, do you remember Miami did that to them multiple, where Jimmy was like closing out and he would just keep running. Love would get the rebound. They'd chuck it down the court. Brunson would be going back and Jimmy Butler would just like post up Brunson. You're like, this sucks. And then Tom Thibodeau was like, I'm going to file that one away.
Yeah, let's steal that one. Last thing for me, Gavin, before I'll throw it to you, if you want to go over the Clydeisms of it all in this game.
Yeah, sure.
But the Taj Gibson chants were hilarious. It was I think that we want Taj chants were louder than the MVP chants today, which is really saying something. Shout out to the Knicks faithful as always. Knicks fans know ball. Not every fan base would be aware of the fact that their team signed. Not every fan base like filling the arena. Let's put it this way: they're the the Twitter degenerates that are on top of everything, and the people like us that are like absorbing every little piece of news. But there are plenty of people that go to an arena that maybe just follow the team casually and wouldn't know that the Knicks re-signed Taj Gibson today to a 10-day contract, and wouldn't realize that he was sitting on the bench already, in Knicks uniform, ready to go. And yet this fan base, the entire garden lit up cheering for him. Very cool moment for Taj, who was emotional about leaving the Knicks the first time. The Knicks were emotional about letting him go. So he gets to come back and has another Knicks moment. So I love that for Taj. And it was just both heartwarming and hilarious way to end the game in this one.
Yeah, that was beautiful. My favorite off the court moment was Mike Breen. I can't remember exactly how it came up, but he referenced Jeff Hornacek. I think he was talking about how hard Hart and DiVincenzo and Brunson all play, and apparently Jeff Hornacek used to say that when he was a player, his goal was to be exhausted at the end of every game. And then Clyde just cuts in and says, I wanted to be almost exhausted because I had to go out after the game, which I don't know why. Like, maybe it's just his delivery and it's like a little like old man humor that like kills Breen. But I was dying when he said that. It's like, it's just like the honesty from where he's like, I had to save a little something for my nightlife. I really dug that.
Yeah, I love Clyde. I love these Knicks. I love this month. I wish January 2024, as far as Knicks fandom, could never end. And yet here we are at the end of it. Hopefully February brings even more great stuff, and we'll have more great episodes for you guys coming up. the rest of this week as well. Might have a little trade deadline crossover, talking about a target coming up before the end of the week. So that would be pretty cool. And then, of course, another game coming up before the end of the week, too. So we got plenty of stuff for you guys. But until next time, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.